Hello, hello. There's a really weird thing with perspective from cameras because my hand is not that big. It's not as big as my head. Squish, squish. Hello. And, oh, well, wait, let me actually formally start this. Okay. Hello, I'm Mayor Watt. That's my site. That's ohmTown.com. That's what I'm the mayor of. ohmTown is a news aggregation site that funnels hundreds of sources into 6 categories: create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology, and then into 50 subgroups that I refer to as channels that I hope to bring to Twitch. And, well, depending on how Twitch starts laying out the rules, might be going over to YouTube more often, and not just for storage and for kind of like a backup. And it would be more restream. I'm going to be streaming on YouTube and Twitch, but it really depends on the policy and procedure that Twitch starts to lay out, because things are in flux, sort of, with all the rumors floating around. It's kind of got me spooked. But I dig the real time here on Twitch, and the ease of deployment over on YouTube. It's a little bit more crazy to go live, but I'm actually ready to go through Ustream, or Restream, not Ustream, Restream, and it introduces lag, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, but it is what it is. So again, welcome to ohmTown, and go over to ohmTown.com, become a citizen. If something is glitchy, let me know, either here in Twitch chat or in various other places. I mean, it's a podcast, so that you can go and let me know there. It's wherever you want to get your podcasts from. That's where it's going nowadays. I'm pretty much everywhere. And YouTube and Twitter and Discord. There's an ohmTown Discord channel. I should probably make rules so that you can type stuff into chat. I don't know if Discord will actually display it. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what I've got in place right now and what's actually active. Come on, Stream Elements, you're supposed to know everything that I already need and get it done before I even type anything in, right? No answer? Okay, pretty typical. Anyway, let's get into today's Hello Dreadnought. By the way, just to let you know, live here in the chat, and now everybody in the podcast is going to hear it, and you're awesome. Thank you, Dreadnought Camo, for showing up. If anybody else decides to come to my chat, welcome. And I just never really know who is in chat, because Twitter's chat list is kind of weird. Again, it tells me that I've got about 15 people in there, but then reports one number different than what's in my chat. Okay. Enough dead air, enough rambling. Let's get into today's news. Today is, oh man, I cannot believe it. It's already May 2nd. It's already May 2nd. Time is flying by, and this is episode 122. I have done this 122 times now. Formerly at 11 p.m., now at 11 a.m. I try to do an hour worth of discussion and presentation about news. It's very kind of a light level. Sometimes I get on a soapbox, but that's kind of the privilege of being mayor of a town. And in chat, everybody can talk as well. And I typically read the chat, like Dreadnought just said. My pleasure. It's a great channel for intellectual and mature chat. Yesterday night, I had somebody out of the blue say that exact same thing in another stream, somebody else's stream. It was actually Plague Pals. I had said that I was joking around a lot, and that I'm pretty much a kid at heart, and it's a kind of a coping mechanism that gets me through the day, and that I joke. And they said, well, based on the streams that I've been watching from ohmTown, it is not a kid joking around. And they said that it was pretty adult in nature, meaning kind of like what you're talking about, mature chat, and not I typically don't cuss, and I don't talk about and or display pictures of violence and stuff like that. But I think that we have to have a rather holistic existence, and nixing anything in particular means that you become devoid of wisdom and knowledge in that area. And I regularly say, you don't know what you don't know. And it's one of the reasons why I really dig chat in real time, because someone can always say, well, look, I have experience in this, and this is what I experience. And you can't really discount that experience. Now, as additional information comes along, you can say, well, hey, what about this? This is the prevailing knowledge. But, you know, context matters. And that's another thing that you hear me say quite a bit in my streams. So the truth always lies between that side of the screen and that side of the screen. I'm doing this wrong. I'm looking at my monitor, and it's probably the wrong thing to do. It's from that side to that side. It's a spectrum. Oh gosh, let me continue on. The very first article is actually in Warcrafters, but it's because of the source, not because of the topic, because the topic is actually a piece of tech. It says, if there's one thing I've learned, this is the author speaking, not me. The Chonky Palmtop is one of the cutest DIY pie machines yet. If there's one thing I've learned, it's never doubt the ingenuity of a Raspberry Pi owner. These credit card sized computers have been made to do all sorts of things, from baller retro gaming machine to a garish PC gaming handheld. But if you're wanting something a little weirder to serve up your pie, maybe have a look at this adorable laptop-like machine. So I'm going to scroll down here, click the link that'll take us over to the source, and it's pcgamer.com. A lot of my news comes from few sources, mainly because the other ones are more niche or niche, as you want to pronounce it, and they don't publish as often. Well, this article is over at pcgamer.com, and it's by Hope Corrigan. And the picture is kind of like a dream machine for me. The only thing that's really missing, and I think that this would probably send this over the top, is if I could slam a 3090 into this little thing, it would be, well, and then if I could branch it off to power, well, I've got 5 monitors, so if I could use all 5 of my monitors with this little thing, it would be awesome. To me, this screams cyberpunk, cyberdeck, surfing the net, in VR or AR, and it would be so awesome to have this. Why? I'll tell you why. Because I am a champion of split keyboards and mobility. So this thing has a split keyboard. Now, I'm not going to play the video. I know that can sometimes be bad form for a streamer to just not click on the link and start streaming the content. But that's not really my objective. My objective is to introduce you to a new context and promote that particular source. Go over there, check it out. That's why I throw the link in there. But I get to see what this little device is. But it's a Raspberry Pi, so it's going to be underpowered except for particular functions. Raspberry Pis are great in cybersecurity. They're great for running particular processes, software-based firewalls on the edge of your network is great for a Raspberry Pi. Kids' computers, great. Number crunching, when you put them all together, you can do big data manipulations. They basically can be piled all together and they act like a supercomputer. But they're going to be a little bit underpowered. If you are a power user on a Windows machine, you're going to feel kind of meh. I don't know about Bitcoin. You'd have to have a lot of them running. But what I think is great about this is that it's tiny and unique, and it's interesting to even look at. But it has everything that I really want. which is just enough connections to be functional, that split keyboard, a little screen. If it has a touch screen, then even better, because then I would be able to do either the keyboard or I could touch the screen and activate something. So it's pretty neat. I dig it. And Daniel Norris is the madman behind the Chonky Palmtop. So Chonky, Chonky Palmtop, a tiny PC with an included fold-out split keyboard. This thick little beastie has a swish. A swish? That's that slang term that I hardly ever hear. Anyway, has a swish retro 3D printed gray box, which opens up to reveal it is a 7-inch touchscreen display and keyboard setup. Okay, well, this just screams awesome to me. So guess who's going to be getting that? If it's for sale, I think I'll be buying one. The keyboard can then be swiveled outward for usability. You can get a look at it, the machine in action in the video above. So you're going to have to go over to PC Gamer, follow the link. It'll be awesome. That's how it works here at ohmTown. Credit where credit is due. Let's continue on to the next article. Again, I only have an hour. I do have a meeting with some constituents here around 12:15, so I really do have to get out of here. Luckily, here in ohmTown, we telework. So 10 things in tech. Leaked Twitter audio. So I know nothing about this. I haven't looked into this. This kind of popped up early, and I haven't really followed anything. I haven't even stumbled across this before, but it says leaked audio reveals what it's like inside Twitter's all hands meeting. During the impromptu meeting held Friday, employees hammered execs with questions about Elon Musk's impending acquisition, expressing anger and frustration. Let's click this link and it'll take us over to businessinsider.com. Before I do that, you know what I need to do, did I? Okay, yeah, I did. Okay, so this article is over at businessinsider.com, and it's written by Jordan Parker Erb. That's an interesting last name. I've never heard that last name before. Not that I know about all last names, but it's an interesting last name. ERB, Erb. So let's see here. A leaked audio reveals what it's like inside Twitter's all hands meeting. Workers, many of whom are expecting layoffs and an executive suite overhaul, demanded more specifics about the deal. Yep. This is what happens. When pressed about the potential of staff losing their jobs, CEO Parag Agrawal did not deny there would be layoffs and admitted that things under Musk are likely to be different. Yep. Can almost guarantee it. Let's see. There are rumors, though, that upwards of 60% of Musk's wealth is tied to the leveraged buyout of Tesla stock. So Tesla stock was used to buy Twitter. And so if the Tesla stock tanks and a margin call is made on that stock, there might be hell to pay. But this is some high finance level stuff that, I don't know what other things are actually, how much risk Musk actually has. But even if this does go through, half of $240 billion is still $120 billion. And if it's all making somewhere between 3 and 12% profit on its investments, you can kind of bet your butt he'll be making more money than you do in your lifetime, and he'll be making it in 1 month. So he makes probably a house worth of money, $500,000 a day kind of a thing. I mean, it's just wildly outrageous. You can't spend money fast enough to catch up to where he is. But anyway, unless you start buying Twitters all over the place. So there's going to be a lot of questions about what's happening with Twitter. We shall have to monitor it and see what comes at the end of this. And there's still a chance that it won't happen. Did I just lag out again? I swear, I don't understand this. So I monitor in real time what my in and out of my network is on the edge of my network. and I never have any slowdowns. So my information is being sent out without issue. In fact, I think, yeah, it's weird. I just watched the kilobits of my stream drop. I didn't lose any frames, but it went from 6,000 again every day when I stream. It drops, boop, and then it spikes back up. So it went below 1,000, and then it jumped all the way up to 12,000 kilobits. At any rate, let's continue on. The next article is in the Hatch Ideas channel. Can crypto clean up its dirty image? Today, Bitcoin uses up as much energy as entire countries. That has governments around the world concerned. I think there's other issues with crypto, but the power-wise, I'll put it to you this way. There are so many companies right now that are buying carbon credits, which amounts to throwing money at something to offset your carbon footprint, right? And in the name of all that's good, that's supposed to suffice as being good. So it's kind of like me stabbing you in the arm and then giving you a Band-Aid. Not really the same thing as just doing good and not stabbing you. That's what buying carbon offsets is. So you can profit, and the long-term objective will be you planted a whole bunch of trees. Well, that's wonderful, but you should have also not polluted to begin with, lowered your carbon footprint to begin with, moved to solar and wind and renewable energy sources that don't exude carbon and other greenhouse gases, and also donate. So do good. In the grand scheme of things, leave the world the way you entered it. So without all of the stuff that your business exudes. So can crypto clean up its dirty image? Not if you're planning on mining the rest of Bitcoin. Because it's going to continuously require more and more compute resources or storage resources that are running constantly, et cetera, et cetera. And the biggest issue with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies is that they're pegged to standard terrestrial values. You have to, a Bitcoin isn't worth anything. It's worth X amount of US dollars or whatever your local currency is in your particular domicile. It has no inherent value. Money does. US dollars is tied to the GDP of the United States. That's its valuation. Other countries have their valuations for their domestic currency. Then we have exchange rates from one to the other. And it's all pegged to the productivity of the country. But Bitcoin is not. It's perceived value powered by fear of missing out energy, and so everybody goes FOMO, starts buying it, or starts producing it, trying to mine, and that's where you end up with $1,200 GPU cards because people can't buy ASICs. And ASICs require a whole lot more knowledge and a whole lot more power, and this is where you end up. And ultimately, all it takes is governments to talk and say, let's not allow Bitcoin. And then it's done. It will tank considerably faster than it could in the future anyway. And the only people that are really appreciative of cryptocurrencies in their various forms are the people that got on early and personally benefited. Now, when it starts tanking, you can bet your butt that they will be suing people because they didn't get time to get out. But when everything is hunky-dory, everybody's cheering. Nobody really has any issues. So can crypto clean up its dirty image? I don't think so. It would have to bury all of that cryptocurrency and move on to something else. If everybody dedicated so much time and energy to solving problems instead of just pure profit for themselves, maybe we'd have a different world and we wouldn't be invading Ukraine. Oh, sorry, that just slipped out. Man, I have some type of, my filter breaks sometimes and I just blurt stuff out. That's not true. I did that on purpose, if anybody's wondering. So let's go on to the next article. Yes. So Dreadnought, I was reading when it came in, but I was on my soapbox, so I had to keep on going. Bitcoin was a dark web currency. Yeah. And it can be used for money laundering because you can do something out in the real world, or you can be paid off for something in Bitcoin and it translates into cash and then you can just deposit it. And it's a nefarious currency for whatever it is that you did, not you in particular, Dreadnought, but a person can sit there and launder money. And that's why it's actually being pursued by a lot of enforcement agencies to monitor what is going on. Yeah, not to throw you under the bus there, Dreadnought, but you are chatting in my chat, so I had to. Maybe I should come up with just somebody else, an alternate personality that I can reference. Okay, well, let's continue on. This is in the Word in Tech. Square Enix is selling Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and its Western studios. Man, what is going on? Mergers and acquisitions. It's all, and I guess breaking off pieces that might be profitable in certain ways. This is arbitrage kind of currency exchange. A big company can start breaking off pieces and selling it to somebody else and recouping costs. But this is Square Enix is selling off its 3 major Western game studios along with the associated video game properties, which includes big names like Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and Thief. The studios and properties are set to be acquired by Embracer Group for an estimated $300 million. Following regulatory approvals, the acquisition is set to be finalized between July and September of this year. So why would they do that? And I feel like I would be like I'm cattle, right? In total, Embracer is acquiring Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, or Eidos, and Square Enix Montreal, which amounts to 1,100 employees across 3 studios and 8 global locations. And you're being sold. it's so weird to me. It sounds like I'm a cow and I'm being just kind of shuttled over to another farm to be milked forever. I guess as long as I'm productive, and you can bet that there's probably going to be downsizing. Obviously, I don't know anything about that, but it just seems interesting. So you said Dreadnought says one reason could be more games being made. How do you frame that? Let's go over to the source and we'll take a look at The Verge. And Andrew Webster is the author. The studios and game properties will become part of Embracer Group. A lot of the reasons why something might be broken off from another organization is because there is a strategic opportunity there to either maximize something like a tranche, right? So there's varying levels of risk within an organization. And so if you can clearly delineate between one set of risk levels and another set of risk levels, you can break off the low risk from the high risk and limit your overall risk. But if there's a big opportunity for that low risk one, like in this case, let's say these 3 major Western game studios working together can produce something great without being a burden on the rest of the organizational units, you can break them off and form Embracer Group. And ta-da, you end up with something that investors will want to invest in that new game. Let's see, as in Square Enix are looking at making new games and have not got the time to continue these games. Right. But in that vein, you can break on, and that's where I guess in a way, that's where I'm coming from. The same perspective as you are, in that the risk really is how much resources and money and so on within Square Enix can be leveraged towards that particular set of risks. And so they break them off and they focus on what they think is strategically sound. And it allows them to grow and they lose that level of risk, but they gain $300 million, et cetera, et cetera. So it allows them to just kind of be more focused within Square Enix. And then the others, they're bearing their own risk now within Embracer Group. So it says Embracer is a quietly huge publishing group which operates more than 100 studios, including the likes of Borderlands developer Gearbox, Saber Interactive, and THQ Nordic. So these are all big companies really within an umbrella company. It also owns comics and entertainment brand Dark Horse. Wow. Okay. So there you have it. Embracer is quite large. Embracer says that with the deal with Square Enix closes, it will have a total of 124 internal studios and 14,000 employees. Yeah, that's an amazing amount of employees for software development. But yeah, it's almost a brilliant statement here. We recognize the fantastic IP, and that right there is when the CEO and others within the C-suite make statements like this publicly, you can kind of bet your butt again that they believe in what is going on within their enterprise, and it isn't just kind of, okay, let's just acquire some stuff and break off the IP and sell it somewhere, which can happen with some other companies that exist. So pretty cool. And Dreadnought says that they have a good history. Pretty awesome. So I look forward to seeing some more quality games. Let's go on to the next article. This one is about law. My Case rolls out a cloud-based drive for backing up and syncing files. One of the things that I run across pretty regularly in the legal profession, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer, I'm not anybody's lawyer, is that small firms typically lack technology, so they're still running paper around, and government agencies tend to be lagging in the area of technical innovation and sophistication. So sometimes you actually have to fax something, which is just bizarre to me in the 21st century. But companies like this, My Case announced Monday that it'll roll out a new cloud-based drive so law firms and lawyers can back up and sync files across devices while on its platform. And of course, while I'm streaming, somebody has to contact me for a meeting. So let me continue on. The next article is over in Hatch Ideas channel. The EU is set to propose a Russian oil embargo, but Putin ally Hungary pushes back. It makes no sense. The European Union is getting ready to propose a ban on Russian oil, but Hungary has been vocal in its opposition. It makes no sense for the Commission to propose sanctions that would restrict Hungarian procurements, an official said. Meanwhile, the EU oil embargo against Putin would crater the Russian economy, an energy analyst told Insider. And that is because Hungary doesn't have the infrastructure to support such a decision. So, of course, these decisions that are based on treaties from one country to another to form the European Union require synergy. Everybody has to be in the same page at the same level of assumed risk or receiving benefit from partner countries so that they aren't isolated and fall apart simply because of the predominant number of people saying that they want this. And they make this comment here: since decisions require unanimity, it makes no sense for the Commission to propose sanctions affecting natural gas and crude oil. So let's continue this. Let's follow the link and go over to Business Insider. And this is an article by Phil Rosen. Let's see. Dreadnought says EU are trying everything to cripple Russia with sanctions. Yeah. And that's simply because the rumor is that after Ukraine, he's going to move on to other countries. And my statement is he's trying to put the band back together. So he's trying to reform the Soviet Union. And he's already, one of the generals or something like that, I can't remember what his name was, has already said that after Ukraine is Moldova. And I'm sure that there are others. So simply put, he wants to put the band back together. But hobbling that effort would be in Ukraine's best interest and for the EU, because it would limit the risk to further invasions. I mean, even threats against Norway and Finland. It's all about trying to take back the identity, I suppose, of historic Russia, even though there's a whole lot of evidence to say it was never like that, until the unification, really, the merging of the various states that broke out. But it's never that simple. There's a lot of, I think, personal objectives. But let's see. Still, Hungary and other countries that are also reliant on Russian energy supplies could be swayed with additional flexibility or some form of compromise, sources told Bloomberg. So this all goes into the fact that everybody is going to have to look out for everybody else. And that statement about the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You'll never be able to trust Russian claims of we won't invade you, because there was actually an agreement with Ukraine that once Ukraine gave up its nukes, Russia would not invade, and Ukraine gave up their nukes, and now Russia is invading. So let's continue on. We're going to have to watch that, but I try not to get too deep into that. Because it's 5 o'clock somewhere. This is in the order of the grape, but it's actually about tequila, not wine. But the news, the source is VinePair, so I aggregated it into the order of the grape. The 25 most expensive tequilas in the world. I'm always curious about this kind of stuff because I'll never spend $1,000 on anything that requires drinking, that is. And it says tequila is natively Mexican, and production must occur exclusively south of the border for the spirit to officially carry the name. Unsurprisingly, each of the most expensive worldwide tequilas, the majority of which will set you back over $1,000, are produced in Jalisco, which has been aptly named the magical town of Tequila. Because when you drink enough, you see a Patronus, I guess, from Harry Potter. So the article is written by Lee Goldstein, and the illustration is by Ariella Basson. This one's kind of a sedate illustration of gold bars and shot glasses, I assume full of tequila. And that looks like blue citrus slices, probably lime or lemon. But anyway, I'm just describing this for the podcast because those of us who are in the stream and watching it on YouTube later or a VOD, we'll see what it really is. But let's see here. What is a pricey tequila here? Average price $652 for the 25th place. I'm just going to scroll down and look at the most expensive one on the list. And you can go back, follow the link in the chat. That's probably a safe bet. I have not had a drink of alcohol. Well, no. I've had, in the last 60 days, I've had 2 beers. But I gave up sugar and I gave up alcohol because I wanted to measure what it does to my blood. I'm all about stats and stuff like that. I'm really interested in that kind of stuff. To the point where I'm thinking about getting a tonal. If you've never heard of it, it's an exercise machine that bolts onto your wall. TONAL.com, tonal. And it does all of your stat gathering for you. And so I'm pondering doing that. So Tonal, if you're watching this, hook me up. And anyway, so Dos Armadillos, sterling silver, tequila extra, Anejo, Jalisco, Mexico. So 2 armadillos, silver tequila, $10,000 average price. And it tastes like oak and vanilla. $10,000 for a bottle? Yeah, it better drive me to the market regularly for $10,000. Okay, let's continue on to the next article. Are unions making a comeback? This is an article over in the Mobile channel. This is probably decidedly United States focused article, but it really does have other country possibilities because unions can form mostly anywhere. And it's really up to the government to tolerate it. Hate to say it that way, but that's really what it is. This is from the New York Times. The article is, it says hosted by Sabrina Tavernize. It's in the daily article podcast. So if you don't listen to the daily, go and check it out. It's over on Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts. But it's produced by Diana Nguyen, Riki Novetsky, Muj Zadie, and Astha Chaverty. I think that's how it's pronounced. So forgive me with the name mangling. I didn't prep to read those. But anyway, in the last 6 months, the Labor Relation NLRB, so a National Labor Relations Board, has recorded a 60% increase in workers filing for petitions that allow the union elections to take place. The circumstances have prompted these unionization efforts have some similarities with the period that brought the largest gain in union membership in U.S. history during the 1930s. Basically, the recovery. Well, there have been some dark times, and about 100 years ago is when it all started, and everything from plague to recession, war, economic collapse beyond recession. It's just been messy, and now everything old is new again. And with the Great Resignation and people unemployed and manipulation of the numbers that say that we have okay employment, and coupled that with massive interest rates, cost of living increases across the board, inflation across the board, unions are coming back into vogue because salary pay in general is not keeping up with inflation, and oligarchs are forming here in the United States with billionaires with political influence, which is the definition of oligarch, forming pretty rapidly, with billionaires being formed during the pandemic. Yet there are people that have to have things like rent frozen so that they can't be ousted during the pandemic. But now that the pandemic is waning, there's going to be people getting kicked out of their apartments because they didn't have a job, and the job that they did have didn't pay enough during the pandemic to offset this massive influx of inflation. So it's going to be a hot mess economically, and that's why I've been saying for the last off and on episodes for the last 122 episodes, but off and on, that this is not the end of it. This is the beginning of it. And I think by September, we're going to be the deepest into this that we will trend towards, but it will maintain into 2023, if not longer. As long as the C-suite and corporations are still demanding just largely massive profits, even during a recession, during lean times, during inflation, they reduce the number, the size of things, they reduce the benefit of things, features and whatnot, yet charge more. And it's the people that have the ability to do this that suffer the least when they start taking it all away. And it's all about profiteering during a crisis. So Dreadnought says unions are common in the UK and are mostly there to liaise between company and employee, only there to keep equality in check. Yeah. US unions are depending on your relationship, I should say, because it's not always this way, but unions in the US are largely used as a means to force a business to comply with wishes of the employees, not just to liaise, not to just provide a means of communication, but to provide a means of leverage. Because at some point a company can go, well, I want to keep my 30% margin. I'm going to start firing people. And in a union, it's not that easy. It's to give bargaining power to the employees, which the entire country is an at-will state. And so you can be fired or you can quit for any reason. But with a union, you get a little bit more leverage. So let's continue on. The word in tech is the next article's place. It says Apple Pay is anti-competitive, says EU in preliminary ruling. Pardon me 1 second. Okay, so this is Apple has been hit with an antitrust accusation by the EU over its exclusion of rivals from its Apple Pay mobile payment system. I'm going to click the link because I'm actually running a little bit behind. Sorry to say that I'm going to have to hurry a bit. Decision takes issue with access to NFC input by third-party developers of mobile wallets. So to me, this doesn't make any sense that it's anti-competitive or even monopolistic. This is an article over at The Verge written by James Vincent and Thomas Ricker. They go into greater detail about this, of course. It says the commission takes issue with the decision by Apple to prevent mobile wallets app developers from accessing the necessary hardware and software on its devices to the benefit of its own solution, Apple Pay. Well, I can put my credit cards into Apple Wallet and I can pay using Apple Wallet with all of those cards. So I'm not quite sure what this is actually impacting. That said, they're probably referring to the connection to Apple Pay itself, but Apple Pay is a credit card, an Apple credit card, and it's powered by MasterCard, and that whole interaction between Apple and the credit card company is a vertical. So it is all part of the Apple ecosystem. So it says this is only the initial formal stage of antitrust proceedings against Apple, and the company will have a chance to respond to the commission's list of objections. And it doesn't prejudge an outcome of an investigation. But even throwing this at Apple just seems to be disconnected from the reality of what it is. Apple, the Apple Store, the App Store is a silo for products that others develop and publish onto the Apple Store. If you're going to make a purchase, you can purchase with pretty much any card that is part of your Apple wallet. Anything that's in your device, you can pay with. So I'm not quite sure what that is. It says it's non-inclusive, and as Apple doesn't pay tax in the EU, Apple isn't as popular in the EU. Apple doesn't pay tax in the EU? 1 second, I'm sorry. I'd have to look at this. Let's see. Yeah, they pay a 15%. Well, now they're paying a 12.5% tax because it has European headquarters in Europe. So it's paying in Ireland a 12% tax. That's its corporate tax, 12.5%. Yeah, that's back in 2021, that data. So I'm not sure. I'd have to go and hunt down to see. My understanding is that they pay corporate tax, but who knows what kind of manipulations they do to lower that. That's normally a corporate thing that people can do. A lot of American companies only pay U.S. tax. U.S. companies offset foreign taxes against their own domestic taxes. That's pretty typical. It gets to write down U.S. taxes. So yeah, I'll look into this a little more because Dreadnought says that Apple doesn't pay taxes in the EU, but I'll have to find some more information about it because yeah, my understanding is that they're still paying. I mean, they got dinged by the European Commission close to 2 years ago because they weren't paying enough. But my understanding is that they do pay. But we'll have to come back to it. But still, their payment gateway is a vertical. It's part of the Apple ecosystem and provided entirely for the Apple Pay card, the credit card. And that particular card is tied to the Apple ecosystem. It's part of all of the solutions within Apple. You literally, if you were to take nothing more than Apple products, don't add any additional software, don't add anything to it, you could literally use nothing more than Apple products for most things, not until you break out into wanting more personal solutions. And that is the objective of Apple, is to provide everything you need within its silo, within its ecosystem. You could turn off the App Store. Yeah, it's a pure white card. If you look it up, it's Apple credit card. Yeah. And it's tied directly to the Apple Wallet. So pretty easy to get too. Okay, so it was a poor man's studio, how Amiga computers reprogram modern music. I don't know how this could be qualified as a poor man's studio because cost is really subjective and they were wildly expensive. And I had an Amiga, but way back. Anyway, it says it was gray, ugly, and had 0.0128% of an iPhone's memory, but the Amiga 500 defied its limitations to power a series of astonishing dance tracks from early jungle to Calvin Harris. So let's click the link. There's other verbiage in here that I'm not going to say out loud on the stream. But this is the Guardian.com article written by Tamlin McGee. And that was the Amiga. There were other iterations of it, but the Amiga kind of changed a lot of people's worldview about computers and tech and the benefits of tech with sound. Musicians that I knew way back loved the Amiga. It had great processing power in that particular sector and had special appeal. For whatever reason, it died out. What that reason was is basically not innovating fast enough and keeping marketing up and basically being able to compete. And so it died on the vine in pretty short order, which is kind of a bummer. We need more competitors, and who knows, maybe somebody will find the IP for this unless it's been acquired. There's a lot in this article. Hypergranular approach allowed King to be forensic right down to the 1,000th of a second in a way that would take 10 times as long with Cubase. So it really, I never used it for music. It was more just to tinker around because I was into tech from a young age on. But people that were around me that used it loved the Amiga. So you want to do a deep dive into a kind of retro tech and the history behind the Amiga, then follow the link in chat. Dunk. And it's in the show notes if you're listening to the podcast or to the YouTube channel. Oddly enough, YouTube truncates my links, so unless I make them tiny links, they get chopped. So you'll see probably the word in tech or something hinting at this URL. There's no easy way to fix the problem with YouTube's description truncating my links, other than shortening the links, or just sending you over to a post on ohmTown.com that's tied to the show. And I don't host the podcast on ohmTown. I suppose I could. But anyway, follow the link in chat or in the show notes and you'll be able to get there. The next article is in the Daily News Show. I'm going to have to hurry because I won't get through all my news. Vote tally begins on second Amazon union election in New York City. The Federal Labor Board will count ballots cast by warehouse workers against Amazon in its second election. And this is over at ABC News. Hallelujah Hadero is an AP business writer that wrote this article. I'm going to pause that video. But it says the NLRB is overseeing the election and expects to finish tallying the votes by Monday evening. Always find it interesting that it takes a long time to tally votes in an election. In the 21st century, you would think that we would use electronic voting to our benefit, but in this day and age, anything having to do with tech is apparently something that you can hack, even though there's no evidence of it being hacked, even after a forensic analysis. Here we are. But it's unclear whether the ALU can replicate its success. There are fewer workers eligible to vote this time around, about 1,500 compared to 8,300, and the turnover in the facility is high. There are also fewer organizers involved in the latest election than the one before it. The same obstacles that plagued the effort the first time, including Amazon's aggressive anti-union tactics, are at play again. Yeah, because you have to keep everybody marginalized and under your control. You don't become a billionaire by giving power to the people. You have to constrain it into a select few. Don't you know how this works? Come on. This is crazy talk. You're never going to become a billionaire if you encourage inclusivity and everyone's voice. Let's continue on to the next before I get on my soapbox. The next article is over in the Hatch Ideas channel. Elon Musk stock picking advice. Don't panic when the market does. Easy to say for a lot of people that have money, but my advice, which is additional to Elon Musk, sure, don't panic when the market does, but if you do panic when the market does, you should be bowing out of the stock market altogether, because if you can't lose everything that you are investing in, you should not be investing. Straight up. If you fear, if you stress, if you are sitting there investing in, unless you're a day trader and you have copious amounts of money to do the regular trading, right? You are doing technical analysis, because day traders typically don't do holistic analysis. If you are investing in markets and you are worried about losing everything, you shouldn't be investing in markets, because you can lose everything. Because if you're not the fastest mover, you're going to start losing when the market collapses. And based on the charts that I've been looking at, everything is remaining red. So you probably should have bowed out before this. And there have been a whole lot of signals. Now, if you have to bow out, the problem here is if you have great wealth invested and you try to bow out, you're going to get dinged by capital gains. Unearned income, you're going to basically lose a ton of money because you're trying to benefit from the growth, but then mitigate the loss, right? And I hate to break it to you. You're going to lose one way or the other if you're stressing about the panic of the market. But it's easy for a billionaire to say. But if you're only a thousandaire, you probably shouldn't be investing great amounts. You can trickle into every paycheck, pay a little bit, and then leave it alone. Do long-term investing and retire on the money that's sitting there, and it'll remain sitting there, because leaving it alone is, on average, superior to regularly trading stocks in and out. You might as well just create strata of risk and invest accordingly. So let's click this link just to give credit to the source. This is Sam Tabaharidi over at Business Insider. And I can't use billionaires as a metric for my decision making in stock picking, because they have wildly different perspectives in terms of risk and even perceived value. And I can't hero worship Musk in any way, shape, or form. He was a multimillionaire before he ever became a billionaire. The ability to risk and the level of knowledge and experience was all predicated on the idea of never having to worry about where your next meal is coming from. So I'm kind of a in the trenches type of investor, which means minimize your risk. While you were young, you could have risked more, but as you age, you probably shouldn't be risking more if you are worried about the market movements. So let's continue on. Don't forget to follow the link and go over to Business Insider so you can read more about it. The next article is in the Order of the Grape channel. It's National Barbecue Month. So here are 5 delicious crown and food pairings. May is National Barbecue Month. True, every month should be National Barbecue Month, but these are the 31 days to really go all out and get down to some serious grilling. I still have yet to have my deck built on my house, and so for me to actually use a barbecue, I would have to drag some contraption out into the woods and risk setting the state on fire. So I guess I'm not going to be doing that this month. But at any rate, let's continue on. This is over at VinePair. Did I post the link? No, I did not. I am such a slacker, but I'll get on this. I'll get this. Maybe around the 250 episode mark, I'll be regularly doing this right. This article's over at VinePair, written by Tony Sachs. And in case you don't know, May is National Barbecue Month. So get out there. Bratwurst with Crown Collins. Look, you had me at bratwurst. Pulled pork with Crown Peach. Yeah, you had me at pulled pork. Jerk chicken with Crown Apple Colada. You had me at jerk chicken. Yeah. I'm a promoter of the idea of leisurely drinking, but I'm telling you, it's the food that is really driving me towards, I could take any drink with the food that they are talking about. Mac and cheese, hell yes. Burgers, really depends on the burger, how it's made. You have to make it specific. It's got to be medium rare. Anyway, you had me at burgers. And all of the drinks are chosen by VinePair. So go over to VinePair and check out this article. I've got 4 more articles to introduce you to. Reality Hacker is a channel that's all about AR and VR, and this is Reality Labs. Chief scientist outlines a new compute architecture for true AR glasses. Speaking at the IEDM conference late last year, Meta Reality Labs Chief Scientist Michael Abrash laid out the company's analysis of how contemporary compute architectures will need to evolve to make possible the AR glasses of our sci-fi conceptualizations. They probably could have said dreams. Let's click that link and take you over there. And while that loads up, I will throw this in chat. Boom, roadtovr.com. Go over there and check it out. Ben Lang is the author of this article. And they talk about HoloLens and Magic Leap 2 and a bunch of other concepts in AR and VR, and the architecture is going to have to change. And I think that a company that is closer to revolutionizing AR and VR is probably Apple with their M chips, the M1 and the incoming M2 chips. They are dramatically lower power to compute resources that I think have the ability to change the dynamic in AR and VR, coupled with low power devices and powerful software. I think that they are probably going to be innovative enough to micronize all of the tech into AR or VR glasses so that they're easier to wear and completely wireless. That is where I'm saying that it's going to go. But I have another link right after this one that might motivate you to get into VR anyway. Not necessarily AR, but definitely VR. And so they talk about XR power bottlenecks, data transfer, and memories. It's a deeper dive than I am prepared to talk about here in the stream. A starting point for distributed computing architecture, Abrash says, could begin with many cameras that AR glasses need for sensing around the world, around the user, I should say. This would involve doing some preliminary computation on the camera sensor itself before sending only the most vital data across power-hungry data transfer lanes. Yes, I think, like most things, eliminating superfluous flows of data. This happens in business. It happens in computer science. It happens pretty much everywhere. And either the data is just doubled up or it's cast off as again, superfluous, but it's still processed. Doing it preemptively would benefit everybody involved in this. So if you want a deeper dive, please go on over to the Road to VR because it's a multi-page article. And if you are into AR and VR, roadtovr.com is probably one of the best solutions for news that I have found. So let me continue on. I'm running really late already. Warcrafter's channel is about gaming, first-person shooters, real-time sims, role-playing games. And it says here, next-gen GPUs are set to offer dramatic compute performance gains. The newest rumors suggest that NVIDIA's next-generation 8102 GPUs could produce more than 100 teraflops of computer performance, which is more than double of an RTX 3090 Ti. A lot of people say Ti, but even NVIDIA calls it a Ti. I'm not sure why they call it Ti, but they say Ti, not Ti. I said this like this many episodes ago, and then I realized that I've been saying Ti quite a bit, and I even pause before I say it. Something's broken in my head. The wiring is just not right. So let's continue on over to the article itself over at pcgamer.com. And Chris Seswick, 100 teraflops is possible, over 2 times higher than the current high-end cards. But these cards are sucking down power like nobody's business. And the reason why this is happening is because they are literally a computer in and of themselves, then bound into the PCIe lanes that the slot is plugged into, or the card is plugged into a slot. It's unbelievably distanced away from the CPU and its onboard memory. So what takes place is everything is compiled inside the GPU and its memory and then thrown out to the processor and back, and you get lag and latency and power consumed. And that's why I harken back to the Apple chip. Its GPU and CPU are integrated into one another. And so it's much faster in how it processes data and at a lower rate because everything is so close together. That micronization is fundamental to changing the dynamic in computers. That said, an RTX card is designed, all I want really is an RTX and a Raspberry Pi. Throw everything onto a massive GPU and it's running with DDR5 memory, or or GDDR, which is a completely different architecture, and it's much faster, and it's focused on computing, on processing memory and just the numbers. But man, I just want something small and graphically profound. Whereas what I have to buy is a big old box full of electronics, and then the card that is twice, or I should say, it doubles the cost of the computer. That said, 4000 era cards, RTX 4XXX cards, are going to be phenomenally powerful, but you're going to need a 1200 watt power supply to power the beast. Let me stop this video. So it says NVIDIA's flagship GPU isn't the only one expected to see a dramatic teraflop uplift. AMD's RDNA 3 GPUs are expected to leap forward too. And this is what I love. Competition, baby. Keep on fighting. Try to be number one, and it'll benefit the consumers. My only problem here is that there are people with a great deal of money that are buying all of the cards before they even hit the shelf, doing the market a disservice, but getting that arbitrage pricing. They're raising the rate, and they're testing who is willing to, sell their firstborn child for a GPU. And guess what? People are actually paying it. Well, prices are starting to drop. Manufacturing needs to pick up. Yep, Dreadnought, they need to reduce the power intake now. Yeah, and the only way to do that is to make the cards smaller. So there isn't so much space between all of the processing units, but then you generate even more heat in a more confined space. So you're going to need liquid cooling, even on a GPU. And I'm willing to foot that bill. Small cards, closer to all of the processing, and not just sent through these lanes that are just miles away from where they need to be in terms of processing. It's a shame. Motherboards are so large, but they really could be a lot smaller if technology would continue to reduce the size. And that is one of the things that Apple has entirely focused on. They are hell-bent on micronizing all of the electronics, and it's because it's more efficient power-wise and resource-wise. You don't need so much. You just need higher tech. And so this is the other side of this. In the Warcrafters channel, Pimax 5K and 8K VR headsets are going cheap in this flash sale. I'm just going to click the link, and it'll take us over to PC Gamer, and from there you can go over to Pimax, or you can just go to pimax.com right now. But I'm going to throw this link into chat. If you are into VR, now is the time to get something that is wildly out of line with the rest of the market. The Pimax 5K, 8K, and other 5 and 8K varieties are going on sale by Pimax. And they even have a mystery box where you're going to get something in their product line at a deeper discount. The cheapest is the Pimax 5K Plus, which usually retails for $700, and right now you can get it for $489. And it has a 2.5K resolution per eye and a refresh rate of 144 hertz. So basically, it's a just over 4K monitor that you'll be looking at 144 hertz. So not bad. And then there's the 8K. And you can actually go over to the site right now, and you have a chance of getting an 8K for only $600. At the time that I looked, which was right before, because I was really interested in this, it was, they hadn't sold any of the mystery boxes. But if you're looking for something cutting edge, and it uses Steam beacons, what do you call it? What are they called? The tracking beacons. Doggone it. My brain just fell out of my head again. Anyway, it works with Steam, so you can get the Pimax at higher resolution for the games that you are playing. Not bad. Not a bad deal at all. It's a little bulkier than the Index, but it has higher resolution, a wider field of view, and right now, a dramatically lower cost for all of that. Like, dramatically lower cost. It's $1,000 for the kit from Steam, the Index. So, And my very last article is about variable refresh rate monitors, and that Visa wants to take on HDR certification to expand it into what do you want to call it? A certification that includes flicker and dropped frames. Wow, see, it just dropped again. To me, it dropped. It says encoding is overloaded, but that's not quite true. My CPU is, let's see, 12%. And I'm streaming music. I'm actually streaming from Twitch to me. I have a YouTube video streaming live, and I'm streaming out, and my network isn't being touched. But every once in a while, the ingest server just kind of dies on me. But enough of that. Let's talk about VRR monitors are becoming ubiquitous. Now Visa's certification wants to make them good. So this is all about aligning the hardware and cabling and the protocol for HDMI, HDR certification, DisplayPort, adaptive sync, compliance specifications to account for flicker and dropped frames. Anything that evolves the technology that makes graphics better, superior to a display. Awesome. I want more competition. I want more evolution. I want it faster. I really don't like the drip, drip, drip of technology. But we have to deal with what we have. And unless everybody on the planet all screams at the same time to focus resources to push one particular agenda, we'll only get the drip, drip, drip. Let's see. This is an article over at The Verge by John Porter. And they talk about how Visa's certification wants to make VRR monitors more capable by including monitoring of flicker and dropped frames. When you have variability, sometimes the processing of that can reflect as flicker and dropped frames. And so you end up having an incompatible experience with what you have set up in the software settings of a game or a piece of software. And so I guess now, years and years after setting up the specification, they're going to continue to expand it, which is always great. DisplayPort 1.2a based on tech provided by AMD, and now it's a standard that's cross-compatible with graphics processors from all three major manufacturers, Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA. So you've always had VRR, but now it's going to be included in Visa testing. I wonder how much of a difference it'll really make. Everybody likes to, I say, pee on their own bush and show dominance in the territory, in the space. So who knows if it'll actually make anything different. I'm sure I have a slightly myopic view of the scope of Visa certification standards because I'm typically not impacted by any of that kind of stuff. I only end up with whatever it is that is provided. So we'll come back and we'll check that out as things evolve. Maybe there's somebody out there that has metrics on the difference that will come. With all that in mind, information overload continues to be a problem for me. I built ohmTown specifically for that purpose, to funnel all this news into categories that are easily digestible by everybody. You can go into any of these channels. It'll have a more siloed perspective of the news for that particular topic. So news, create, education, entertainment, social, and technology. But there's hundreds of thousands of articles in here. So it goes back years and is currently current all the time. It's always reaching out and grabbing news and aggregating it into these 6 categories. So come on back tomorrow at 11 o'clock. I do the news. I try to stay after for a little bit, but today I actually have a meeting that I am currently 15 minutes late for, but I wanted to do the news for everybody. So thank you very much for coming. You're awesome, Dreadnought. Thanks again for swinging by. Tell a friend. Really appreciate your presence. And I will see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Bye-bye for now.